A poor woman lost her 4 children. What otherworldly force has been taking away her babies? This investigation is going to shed light on a shocking family secret. What could be the connection between the poor mother and the cruel serial murderer? Welcome to Psychics Investigations, a channel of impressive true stories. Here, people who call themselves clairvoyants solve incredible mystical anomalies and untangle the most resonant criminal cases. In this episode, the clairvoyants answer the call for help from Olha Taran, a woman from a little Ukrainian village. She has lost her 3 daughters and son.
My happiness is buried here underground.
The woman lost her children at different times and under different circumstances: a fatal incident, a sudden death soon after birth, and 2 miscarriages at the final stages of pregnancy.
My darling, my dear baby.
Olha's elder daughter, Albina, died when she was 3.
A fire started in my house, and Albina was inside.
The firefighter said a spark fell out of a crack in the wood stove.
The fire started in the old house that Olha rented at the time. The woman had divorced Albina's father a few months before the tragedy. The man with whom she fell head over heels in love in her youth became a drunk and a tyrant. Soon after the wedding,
He beat me and he drank a lot. And at some point, I realized I couldn't bear it, and so I took my daughter and left him.
to pay for her modest accommodation, the single mother found a part-time job and the local farm and sent her daughter to the nursery.
She was so sweet. She was very bright. She was below 3, but she already knew how to rote a little and count to 10. She could write her name.
The woman still recalls the day when her daughter died in detail. It was very cold, and they had run out of firewood. Olha went to the barn for a few minutes and left Albina alone in the house. But when she came back, the house was shrouded in smoke.
The smoke was terrible. I wetted a piece of cloth to cover my face and went to find her, but I failed.
Panicked, Olha started shouting out, calling for help. The neighbors heard her and came running. The owner of the house arrived too. He dragged the girl out of the fire.
He dashed into the fire and brought her out. The house was in flames by that time.
The mother says her daughter was still breathing, but the girl died on her way to the hospital.
She suffocated. God, when the doctors told me, I didn't get it at first.
After the tragedy, Olha lost any sense of her life and withdrew into herself. Her mother feared she could commit suicide.
It was very hard for her. She only met another man 4 years later.
Olha married for the 2nd time, and her greatest wish was to be a mother again, but she couldn't get pregnant, no matter what she did. Only after a year of medical procedures, prayers, and attending monasteries did she see a prophetic dream in which her deceased daughter visited her.
She sat down on the pillow on the bed next to me and stroked my head with her little hand 3 times. Mom, Mom, and I woke up happy and certain I would finally be a mother.
Several weeks later, Olha learned she was pregnant. There was no limit to the family's joy.
We anticipated the baby. The doctors assured me everything was going to go well. We hoped and we expected.
Olga gave birth to a boy, but the baby lived only 1 day.
It was a boy. We called him Bogdan, which means God-given. The following day, I was going to feed him. I couldn't wait to do it, but then they told me he was gone.
Olha's doctor still can't understand why the boy died.
He was absolutely fine. The examinations revealed no issues at all.
After Bogdan's death, Olha attempted to become a mother twice more, but her 2 daughters, Polina and Nastya, died before they were even born. Just like with her son, the checkups during the pregnancy showed there was nothing to worry about.
During both pregnancies, I consulted with the doctors regularly and took all the vitamins. Everything was all right. But then I started bleeding suddenly. I have no idea what the cause was, nor do the doctors.
There must be a definite cause, but the official medicine failed to find it.
There must be a reason behind that.
Olha is astonished by her own thoughts, but she believes that Bohdan, Polina, and Nastya were taken away by her eldest daughter, Albina, who is furious with her mother for failing to save her from the fire.
Could she be offended and won't let me have other children?
And the worst of all, every time Albina visited her mother in dreams, it was always right before the woman lost her other babies.
I dreamed of my Albina. She was crying and asking me, "Mom, take me away from here." And I told her, "Baby, how can I take you? You're there and I'm here."
Olha's greatest wish is to be a mother, but the fear of losing another baby is killing the poor woman.
I can't look at her as a mother. I'm so sorry for her. She cries all the time and she's very upset. We need the psychics to help us.
Help us, please, to sort it all out.
Psychics Zhana Shulakova and Olga Kalinova answered the poor woman's call for help. On their way there, Zhana Shulakova receives a call from her worried colleague, Olena Kurilova.
I saw you in a nightmare. You were in the white van that we used to travel. Suddenly, a girl jumped under its wheels.
Oh, God.
I hear screaming and see you get out onto the road.
Do you mean it's a vision from the future?
I am positive it is.
I warned the driver immediately. But why would a young woman need to jump under the wheels of our van?
Half an hour later, our crew visits Olena Kurilova, who's tuning into the situation. Meanwhile, Zhana Shulakova has reached her destination and sent her colleague a text.
I can't get rid of the anxiety. I need to work with my mirror.
At the same time, the psychics are tuning in to Olha's photo.
Ola thinks her eldest daughter, who died in a fire, is taking away her babies. But my cards say the reason is different. The card of the murder and the card of the mother.
Wait, could it be a murder? Not an accident?
No way! Is it possible that Olha is hiding something? Can she have any connection to her daughter's death? Simultaneously, Olena Kurilova begins describing a strange woman, and we find it really shocking.
I see her face. It's covered with some kind of veil. I only see her eyes. They're very expressive brown eyes. Wait. She's not alive. It's a spirit. And the next moment, I see her next to Zhana.
This can't be, but at the same time, Zhana Shulakova suddenly points at the window.
There's a young woman standing there. The dead girl's face was covered with some cloth. It reminded me of the way Oriental women cover their faces.
But who is this dead woman with a covered face, and what is Olga's relationship to this, whose children are dying?
She's saying something. I'm not the one everybody thinks I am. My son must know the truth.
It's so weird. The cards are saying the dead woman is connected with me. I don't get it. What do I have to do with all this?
But who is that dead woman? And why did her spirit come the moment Zhana and I arrived in the village to help the poor mother, who's losing her babies one by one?
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to speak to your daughter. Can we summon her spirit?
Sure, yes.
We need some of her things or a photo of her.
I see her. She's standing next to you. She's reaching out for your hand.
I felt her. I felt her tiny hands and her presence.
I see Albina holding a teddy bear in her hands.
She had a favorite teddy. It said, "I love you," when you pressed on its tummy.
Olha says that after Albina's funeral, her daughter's favorite toy began turning on itself.
Once it repeated, "I love you" all night long. After that, I took it to her grave.
Albina says she didn't want to scare you. She only wanted to play with her toy.
Baby, I love you so much. Forgive me, please.
At that moment, my card showed me that Albina's death wasn't an accident. Somebody started the fire in which she died. But who was it?
I had a vision. When the fire started, somebody's spirit was next to the girl. The evil spirit provoked the fire in which your daughter died.
Your daughter has nothing to do with your baby's deaths.
Some spirit is taking them away.
Suddenly, I heard a female scream outside.
Clairvoyants quickly go out into the yard. What's going on?
The voice was coming from the old well in Olha's yard. So, I ran there immediately. There I saw the young veiled woman. The young woman is standing there. She said, "You must tell the truth about my death." And then she unveiled her face. I saw blood. She'd been murdered.
Don't go there, Jana. The well is ancient. Don't go.
I didn't feel any necrotic energy from the well in the yard. So, it had to be the other well. But what did the veiled woman mean? She told me. The well became the grave for 11 women.
11 dead women in a well? What is that supposed to mean?
Olha, I feel you're somehow connected with that story.
Have you heard of the well where women are buried?
I don't know.
Jana, listen, could Olena Kurilova know something about it? She's local, all in all.
Olga and I are in the place where you come from. We felt a well in which many women are buried. They were all murdered.
Oh God. Yes, I know the well. It's in the town. And the 11 women are the victims of the cruel maniac. The man's name is Ruslan Kamarov. He was arrested in the early 2000s.
As it turned out, it was one of the most resonant criminal cases in Ukraine. The local law enforcers still remember it. Women began to disappear in the quiet resort town on the shores of the Azov Sea in 2000.
All of the victims were women. They were all of different ages, ranging from 40 to 20. All of them had different body shapes and hair colors.
Only 3 years after the first woman went missing, in February 2003, the police arrested Ruslan Kamarov, one of the cruelest maniacs in the history of Ukraine. They found the bodies of the 11 victims in the well in his yard. During his arrest, he explained that all of them were prostitutes.
He said that he considered them to be lesser people, claiming that he did society a favor by cleaning the world of their existence.
However, the law enforcers still do not know why the maniac began murdering and what made him launch the series of the terrible crimes.
We found out that the young woman whose spirit we kept seeing was among the victims of the serial killer. But what had it to do with Olha and her dead babies?
The cards are saying that Olha is connected to the maniac. Only when we know what it is, we can save Olha.
Olha. What can connect you to the serial killer?
I don't understand it. I have nothing to do with any murders.
Could the maniac know it? We had to ask him.
The cards say the answer is within a family. I don't understand what family. Olha's or the murderers? Or could they possibly be related?
It turned out that Ruslan Kamarov is serving his sentence at a penal colony nearby. Our journalists arranged the interview with the murderer to find out about his family.
Tell me, who is your father?
My father was from Almaty.
Do you mean Kazakhstan?
Yes.
Do you remember him?
I don't.
The maniac shared little about his father, but we later found his maternal aunt-cousin, Lydia. She told us that Ruslan Kamarov's father left his family when his son was still an infant.
He essentially had no father. Well, he had him, but the man left them. He couldn't settle down here, and he went to Kazakhstan.
Tell us about your mother. Who is she?
My mom, Jana, worked at the place called Crystal. I loved her.
Where is your mother now? What happened?
She jumped under a train and killed herself. It's hard for me to remember it. It hurts me to think Jana's gone. I was 13 when she did it.
Do you know why your mother committed suicide?
Her surrounding. It is to blame for it. Her surrounding resulted in her suicide, and mine, you see it for yourself.
Did your mother live a riotous life?
She worked where lechery happened. She was an administrator at the restaurant.
And she became a prostitute too, right?
She lost her mind with the lechery in this life.
Is this why you killed prostitutes?
I don't remember, but should I? They're of no value to me. They're rubbish. Why should I even think of them?
Later, Ruslan Kamarov's relative told us that after his mother divorced her husband, for a while, she really was an administrator at a restaurant where prostitutes worked. But she lacked money, so she also became a prostitute herself. And then she started drinking heavily to drown out her shame.
After his father left, his mother started drinking and living this life. It was so unpleasant to see.
Did the maniac start murdering prostitutes because he subconsciously thought they were guilty of his mother's death? Could he be retributing them for the death of his closest person by doing so? But what relation does it have to Olha?
What could be the connection between Olha and the cruel serial killer?
Watch the next episode to know the awful family secret. Why did Olha and her family hide the cruel murderer? Who is the woman the maniac loves? And what did he do out of love for her? If you're impressed by this story, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Many more unbelievable investigations by the psychics are still ahead. The unbelievable investigation continues. What otherworldly force has taken away 4 children from a mother? The senses of psychics are amazing. Are the mother's children's deaths a revenge for her connection with the cold-blooded serial killer? Welcome to Psychic Investigations, a channel of true, impressive stories. People who call themselves clairvoyants solve incredible mystical anomalies and resonant criminal cases. In the previous episode, the psychics arrived in a little village in southeastern Ukraine to help a poor woman who had lost her 4 children.
My happiness is buried here, underground.
Olha's children died at different times under different circumstances. Her 2 younger daughters died as unborn babies during the final stages of pregnancy, and her son died the next day after he was born, while Olha's eldest daughter, Albina, breathed smoke and suffocated when their house caught fire.
Ola thinks her eldest daughter is taking away her other babies, but the cards show us that the reason behind it is absolutely different. The card of the murder and the card of the mother.
The young woman, she said, "You must tell the truth about my death." She was murdered. The well became the grave for 11 women.
I know that well. The 11 women are the victims of the cruel maniac. The man's name is Ruslan Kamarov. He was arrested in the early 2000s. Something connects Olha and the serial killer. The cards say the answer is within a family.
Then I suddenly heard a woman related to Olha shouting out terrible words at her. "I curse you.
This is what my mother-in-law told me. She hated me. It could be because I come from a poor family. She hated my daughter.
I feel that you and your husband were trying to divide your property, and it was another cause for a conflict with your mother-in-law.
I divorced my husband. When I arrived to take my TV, she said, "May it burn," and the fire started several days afterward.
This was the fire in which Olha lost her daughter, Albina.
The words of Olha's mother-in-law really seem to be a curse.
If her mother-in-law practices magic, she could send a murderous spirit and it's killing her children. Show me where that woman lives.
Meanwhile, Olena Kurilova is trying to figure out what links the poor mother and the violent maniac.
At that moment, the cards told me that the veiled woman, who is among the maniac's victims, will help me solve the mystery. And she's here.
This is astonishing. The moment the clairvoyant sensed the ghost's presence, the door of the cabinet opened.
Who are you? What is your name? She says so quietly. Alina, or is it Polina? I don't understand. She says, "You don't know me, but your mother remembers me."
This is insane. Did Olena Kurilova's mother really know one of the maniac's victims? The psychic immediately dials her mother, Olha.
Mom, a young woman's spirit visited me. She's a victim of the serial killer from our town. Do you remember him?
Yes, of course I remember him.
This woman says her name is either Polina or Alina. And she also says you used to know her.
I did know her. She was our neighbor, Polina Izvekova.
The maniac claimed he only killed prostitutes. Did she happen to be one?
No. Absolutely not. She was a good girl. She was kind, joyful, and very beautiful.
Polina Izvekova didn't even live up to her 20s. A young single mother, she left her drunkard husband, completed a degree in teaching, and devoted all her love and care to her son.
Ruslan Komarov killed my sister, Polina. It was long ago, but I still feel the pain of the loss.
The sisters had no secrets from each other. Nina knew everything Polina did. As such, when her sister didn't answer the phone one evening, the elder sister got alarmed.
I ran to find her, sounding the alarm. The search lasted for over a week.
On the 9th day of the search, Nina received a call from the police, informing her that they'd found Polina's body.
All I could do was shout. I yelled at them, telling them it was a mistake.
The woman says she still can't understand why the maniac chose her sister specifically.
I simply want to know why it happened.
Nina can't calm down until now, because after the death of her sister, her little son was left an orphan.
He had fair hairs and blue eyes. He was a very calm boy.
Nina wanted to take custody of the boy, but the social service concluded that her financial situation and little apartment didn't meet the requirements for the adoption. Besides, Nina was pregnant at the time, and so the boy was adopted by strangers.
He was adopted. That's all I know.
But why did Ruslan Komarov murder the young mother? And what does it have to do with Olha, who keeps losing her children? The journalists of our project try to find it out directly from the murderer.
Do you remember Polina Izvekova?
I do remember her. She had a very beautiful face. She was a great looker. She stuck to my soul.
What did you do to her?
I smashed half of her skull with brass knuckles.
Do you remember the other girls?
What kind of question is this? How could I remember them? I told you they were rubbish.
It's weird that the cruel maniac only remembers Polina among all his victims. And whenever he hears her name, he gets nervous and refuses to talk.
I really regret. My soul is on fire.
I have a feeling the maniac wasn't going to murder Polina. He met her long before he did it, and he knew she wasn't a prostitute. He had feelings for her because she resembled him of his mother. She was also a single mother with a son.
Later on, the victim's sister told us that Ruslan Kamarov really had feelings for Polina. The woman says that 15 years ago, the man looked good and made a good impression.
Yes, I saw him. He always wore a black coat, you know, one of those long leather coats that were trendy back then. So, he had one.
And after a few weeks of communication with Ruslan, the young mother went on a date with him, after which she disappeared.
Her family knew where she went and with whom she was. After he murdered Polina Izvekova, Ruslan Kamarov turned himself in.
But why did the serial killer choose to confess everything to the police so abruptly? Did his consciousness wake up all of a sudden? He didn't just confess what he did, but he also showed the police officers the well in which Polina's body was. She was wrapped in a bedsheet.
So this is why Polina's spirit showed herself to Jana and me with her face covered. The maniac wrapped her body in the cloth.
But the most terrible thing happened after the law enforcers took the victim's body out of the well. What they saw in there struck them numb. The well in an ordinary yard contained the remains of 10 more women.
We were shocked. It turned out that the yard with the well that had become the grave for the 11 women was right by the hotel where Jana and I stayed.
I felt that the maniac had decided to turn himself in because he had been tormented by guilt. He'd loved Polina, but I couldn't get why he'd murdered her. And most importantly, what did Olha, who we were trying to save, have to do with this story?
Meanwhile, the investigation brings the psychics to the home of Natalia, Olha's former mother-in-law.
Natalia, tell us, why did you curse your daughter-in-law?
She made it all up.
I'm telling the truth. I swear to God, I'm not lying.
And I swear I didn't wish you anything bad.
I'll curse your bones so you'll never be happy, you said. And I was holding my daughter in my arms at that moment.
Why did you tell her such awful things?
She told me she was divorcing my son. For me, it came as an unpleasant surprise.
Do you know that your words could possibly become the reason why Olha lost her children?
Olha, fear God.
I'm standing in front of him. And I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. I don't need to lie. Look. Just look at this.
Enough. I don't want it anymore.
The woman goes back into her house. But the psychics stay by the gate and aren't going to go anywhere.
Natalia, we're not leaving until we know for sure whether you're connected to the deaths of Olha's children or not.
It seems that Olha's mother-in-law sees that the clairvoyance won't leave, so she comes back. Yet she's not alone this time. A man who didn't introduce himself accompanies her.
Could I have your hand for a second?
Of course.
I felt that Olha's mother-in-law indeed felt guilty, but not for her granddaughter's death. You feel remorse. Is it because you offended Olha? You defended your son, who wronged her, and you know it perfectly.
Sure.
However, it's not your guilt that Olha's children are dying. You have nothing to do with it. I really want you and Olha to finally reconcile.
Olha, please don't bear a grudge against me.
It's all right. It turned out my mother-in-law wasn't guilty. I even felt sorry for her, and I was embarrassed because I'd been wrong.
But if it's not the mother's-in-law curse, then why does Olha keep losing her children? And what could possibly be the link between the poor mother and the cruel serial killer?
Polina says that before she died, she was at the murderer's home and saw bloodstains on its walls. The maniac noticed her scared gaze and realized she knew who he was. Polina tried to leave, but it was too late. When I asked Polina's ghost about the connection between the maniac and Olha, She said, "The answer is in Olha's house. Her family knows everything."
When we set off to Olha's house, we felt a massive thump like somebody hit the windshield at full speed. God, can we get out?
It was Polina's spirit. She was standing in the middle of the road, weeping. So it was her who Olena Kurilova had seen before the investigation. The woman's spirit is trying to draw our attention, but I can't get what we must do to help her.
And then the woman's spirit said, "Tell my son that I love him." The murderer got me because I hadn't seen the maniac in him. I thought he was a regular man who would be a father for my child.
And Polina said that the beast's family saw the bloodstains on the walls of his house. They knew he'd done something terribly wrong. I was shocked. Did the maniac's family cover up his crime?
As it turned out, Komarov's aunt has 2 sons. The murderer was in a good relationship with them. According to the locals, both men often visited the maniac's house, where the police later found the horrible bloodstains. The family of the murderer couldn't have missed them.
And then I was struck, a family hiding the murderer. This is what connects Olha to the maniac.
According to our feelings, Olha's family also covered up a murderer's terrible crime. Olha, we need to talk to your family.
The clairvoyants arrive at Olha's house. Her mother and sister, Lilia, are already waiting for them there.
Wait. I feel something horrendous happened in this corridor. Your family is covering up some sort of crime. Why are you silent?
We fear, all right?
I see an elderly woman's spirit. She has fair hair, high forehead, and brown eyes.
Grandma.
She looks a lot like you, Olha.
Yes, people often tell me I'm like Grandma Halia.
Your grandmother didn't die naturally.
She died at the hospital after a surgery.
Why was she taken there?
No, I'm not going to tell this in front of the cameras.
Your grandmother says she died at the hands of her own son. And you all covered up his crime.
It was your brother, wasn't it?
My youngest brother.
Tamara's brother's name is Sviatoslav. The woman says he had problems with the law back when he was a teenager, and he was even in prison.
Once he cut and stole cables to take them to the recycling center, and then he hit a boy on the motorbike. He was sentenced and did his time in prison.
Later on, Tamara told our journalists that, having served his sentence, her brother returned home and committed a crime that is hard to comprehend. The man attacked his mother.
He was drunk. He started kicking and punching her so badly that she was all bruised. The left side of her body got paralyzed. We took her to the hospital.
She spent some time at the hospital, but she eventually died. It was terrible.
After the man beat up his own mother, he immediately told his sister and nieces about that.
The man's families knew about the horrific thing and he'd done, but they decided to cover up his crime.
We didn't tell the doctors the truth. We said she'd fallen from a ladder.
How can you live with that? Why didn't you tell the truth at the hospital?
Because he'll arrive the next day and that will be it. There will be no me or her. He'll kill us all, you see.
Doesn't it bother you that he's dangerous and can hurt other people? Or that by doing what you did, you betrayed your closest person? Tamara, your mother's spirit is sure the family of traitors and murderers can't survive. This is the reason you, Olha, lost your daughters and son. All children in your family are under threat. And your brother has buried his own child. Am I right?
It also happened to him that his child died.
You also have a child, a daughter, and you live in constant fear.
I simply fear for my child. I worry about her a lot. What do we do? Help us, please.
You need to repent for what you did before your grandmother's spirit. I'll try to summon her spirit, but I'm not sure if she wishes to listen to you. I began summoning the woman from the other world, and soon enough I felt her presence.
Grandma, forgive us, please.
Mom, forgive us for concealing it. Forgive us all.
Forgive me, please.
Your grandmother says she forgives you. Now I'm going to let her soul go. She won't take away children in your family anymore.
I'm a lot better now. It feels like the beginning of my life, like I was born again.
What an incredible story. Murdering your mother is a grave sin, so it's no wonder that her spirit wanted to put an end to the lineage of her children, whom she saw as murderers and traitors. If you're impressed by the story, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Many more impressive investigations by the psychics are still ahead.